Well, greetings, Boise State fans.
Greetings, Boise State fans. If I get my mic turned on here and figured out, can we hear me, Prater? We good? We're live. BJ Rains here, Mike Prater. Prater is with 95.3 FM, The Ticket. I am with Bronco Nation News, and wow, what a 24 hours it's been for me personally. But I am back. I am here, and we're talking some basketball. Was in Logan last night for the game, and get your comments in, get your questions in. This is going to be fun here on a Friday morning, and one of the cool things we can do, Mike, kind of react to this in real time and not have to wait until 3 o'clock today to break this game down. Boise State 62-59. They take down Utah State. Their first win in the Spectrum since 2016, I believe. And it wasn't sold out, but it was a pretty good crowd. The students were into it last night. It was probably the toughest atmosphere they've played in all season by far. And I know Mike Prater is going to say wait till March, and that's fine. I know, slowly but surely, you got to be starting to buy in a little bit here, Mike.
Oh, absolutely starting to buy into it. And big games like last night make a big difference. So I wasn't there last night, but I've covered dozens of games in that building, and I've never seen it bad in terms of the atmosphere. It's always a tough place to play, regardless of what the situation is. And I know Utah State's a little bit down, but you know that they were going to give the effort that they gave last night. They finally caught a little bit of fire in terms of their shooting. They've been struggling to shoot the ball, but Boise State's defense comes through, and then are you kidding me? My big boy, Vlad Narmouche, are you kidding me? 19 and 22, and then Shaver comes through. Ofer, he's got the big donut. I got to throw in donut. It's early in the morning, BJ, and he had the big donut until that last second shot with 1.3 seconds to go for whatever time it was. That was impressive. These are the kind of basketball games that Boise State lost a couple years ago. Remember the season of the single-digit loss? I think they were like 1 of 11 or whatever it is.
Yep.
They couldn't find the clutch times. They figured out how to do this. This team knows how to win late in the basketball game, and they did it again last night, BJ.
I was thinking of Milad Marmouche. I was thinking of you last night. I know he's your guy. 22 points, 19 rebounds. I mean, just incredible what he's doing. 22 and 19. You have to go pretty far in the record books at Boise State to find someone that had 22 and 19. It was just incredible. And then you had the huge three-pointer actually from Emmanuel Acott first to tie the game with about 45 seconds to go. Boise State gets the stop. And no timeout. I think that deserves, Leon Rice in his late game, strategy gets a lot of criticism and things like that. But in the tie game, he didn't want to let the defense set themselves. When they missed the shot and Boise State got the rebound with about 20 seconds left, they did not call timeout. They let it play out. And Marcus Shaver Jr., 0 for 10, as you said, coming into that shot. Hit it from the top of the key. And I think any Boise State fan that knows Marcus Shaver just had a feeling that shot was going to go in.
Marcus Shaver seems like he's better as a shooter when he's got to hurry it. He can't think about it. He's got 1.5 seconds to get it up. Somebody's in his face. He's falling away. I mean, he's that clutch guy. I know there's this great debate in sports. Are you clutch or are you good or are you a product of the circumstances? Marcus Shaver is proven to me to be a very clutch basketball player. I think he thrives in those situations, BJ.
Yes, and, I hate to go negative, but you would like to see the free throw numbers improve a little bit. Again, the free throws, the three-point shots. I mean, there were a couple. You look at some of these stats, Mike, and you go, how did they win the game? Boise State goes 5 of 20 from 3, but again, they were 3 of 18 until they hit the final 2 with Acott and Shaver at the end of the game. If you're Utah State, and it's been a tough go for them, they've lost a lot of games like this. They're like maybe the best 1-in-5 conference team in America. I mean, they're losing every game by 2-3 points, and they were winning pretty much the whole game. And they had a 6-point lead at halftime. They were up 8 or 9. I mean, if you're Utah State and Boise State comes in and basically steals that game, that had to be demoralizing for Utah State leaving there. But I mean, you can go down the line, and let's try to take a look at some of the highlights here. If I can pull this off, Mike. We'll see if we can do this here. There's the highlights, and I'm doing this on the fly here, so we'll try to play these a little bit. This was courtesy of the Mountain West Network, obviously, and let's see if we can do this here. That was Max Rice scoring a bucket. We had Abu Kijab. This was right before halftime hitting. I thought that was a big bucket to get Boise State a little momentum right before the half. And then you had a big three from that was Kijab at the top of the key. And, Boise State just kept on going, and there's a nice pass, Armouche, and he missed the free throw. I think he was, 2 of 10 from the foul line or something. It's the one area of his game. Another huge dunk from Armouche, though, there late. And Boise State just kept coming. And there's another nice pass. The interior passing for Boise State in this game was really nice, and they were finding him. And here's the final shot. Marcus Shaver Jr., 1.4. I think they changed the clock to 1.7 when he hit the shot. We have a second angle here. This was my view courtside right here. Nice front row seat here. And this was you had the pick and roll, but he kind of kept it, decided to pull up, and bang, silenced. I think the headline to our story was "Silence at the Spectrum." And they silenced the crowd there, Mike. And it was just a huge shot for Marcus Shaver. And who knows where this season's going to go from here? But to get the win streak to 11. And it's just we don't know how big the shot's going to turn out to be. If they lose their next 4 games or whatever, you're going to say, oh, well. But if you win that one, all of a sudden, it just starts to keep building things. Now, Leon Rice kind of, I don't want to say chastised me last night, but didn't like that I said they were playing with house money tomorrow night because, they've this 5-game stretch, 5 games in 10 days in 5 states, like 5,000 miles or something. If you would have said you're going to go 4-1, you would have taken that before it started, no doubt about it. And on this 2-game trip, I think you would have taken 1-1. And you get the win now, and you're kind of going into San Diego like it's really not the end of the world if you lose. Obviously, you want to win. You want to keep it rolling, and I think they have a great chance based on how they're playing. But I think that they go in there with a much different feeling after winning that game. You lose that game last night, all of a sudden you're a little tight. You're going on the road to San Diego State. You don't want to lose 2 in a row. Then you got Wyoming and Fresno next week, and all of a sudden the folks like Mike Prater start coming out and saying, "Okay, is this what's this team really? What team is this?" But you win that game, you have a happy charter down to San Diego, and I think today is a much different feeling. And then tomorrow, I just think that was a huge win for the confidence of this team, especially going into tomorrow's game.
BJ, you know this as well as I do. Confidence is such a big factor in sports. I think you just absolutely nailed it on the head. So good for you for asking Leon that question. I think you're right. They are playing with a little bit of house money. I predicted them to go 3-2 on this road trip. Consider me skeptical. I know we've talked about that a lot with this basketball program and the Leon Rice regime. But you opened up this show by saying every time we see one of these wins, every time we see one of these games, every time we see Boise State make this progress in terms of what they're doing on the basketball court, you're picking up confidence as a fan, you're picking up confidence as a player, as a coaching staff, the whole Boise State basketball family, and you're starting to feel it a little bit right now. And I don't think tomorrow's game against San Diego State is going to be it doesn't matter. I think it is kind of the frosting on the cake, and I don't care what Leon Rice says. Of course, he wants to win. Of course, if they could come away 5-0 on this road trip going into next week, that's monster confidence for this basketball team, and it's going to serve them well. But I really like what they're doing, and also kudos to Leon Rice. Earlier this week, he said Mladen Armouche is one of the best, if not the best, rebounders in the history of Boise State basketball. I've been following Boise State basketball since 1990, and there's been some monster players that have come through here. And you've covered many players at Boise State. And I thought, I'm not sure about that. Last night was probably one of the single greatest rebounding performances I've seen in a Boise State basketball game. Mladen Armouche, dude, he gets better every single game. I know he's still got some warts and some hiccups, and please, somebody fix all these free throws for the entire team. But Mladen Armouche, Leon Rice, what they're building and developing is very impressive right now, BJ.
And I don't think he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to come back next year, but he technically has another year of eligibility left next year. Just to think of another season of Mladen Armouche in college would be pretty crazy. But I think he's like 25 years old already. I think he wants to start his pro career back in Serbia, where he's from. I wouldn't expect him to come back. But man, you see the continued development he's made the last couple of years. And Prater, I was at the game, so I didn't hear this, but apparently the Mountain West Network commentators were having a little bit of issues. Prater, how come your colleagues in Utah couldn't pronounce Armouche's name correctly, and shouldn't the Mountain West just allow you to dial into your local Learfield announcers in the app? That is interesting. You couldn't hear Bob and Abe. It was the Utah State radio team with the video feed. So it would have been nice if you're a Boise State guy. Why can't you just tap into the Boise State feed if all it is going to be is piped in anyway? So they didn't have any kind of local TV announcers on site. It was just the Utah State radio feed. And so I did hear a lot of stuff about the announcers being biased towards Utah State. And well, they were Utah State radio crew, and it'd be the same feeling if it was Bob and Abe, going crazy on the shot, where Utah State fans would have been upset. So yeah, that's interesting. But apparently they if you're a Boise State fan, I don't think the broadcast tailored to Boise State fans too much.
I spent too much time thinking about that last night as I was watching the show on the Mountain West Network, and I know Scotty. Scotty's a good dude. Scotty's a great guy. But yeah, he's a homer. He's worked at Utah State for a long, long time. He's worked in that market for a long time. I'll tell you this: if you were a Boise State fan and you went through that as a fan, suffered through that 2-hour broadcast of listening to Scotty and his guy call that game, and yes, they screwed up Milan Narmouche. They screwed it up a lot, and somebody should have corrected them. But if you stuck through the entire broadcast, when Shaver made that shot, that was worth it for you. I swear to God, it's like putting a pin in a balloon. It's the cliche. The silence, you probably heard it in the building, but the broadcast was unbelievable. Scotty Garrard, who has tons of enthusiasm, just went, he makes the shot. And that was pretty much the end of the broadcast. It was very entertaining if you're a Boise State guy.
I think let's see if we can play the clip again. We had the audio. I don't know if I can pull it back up again. Let's see if we can do this on the fly here. I don't know if I have the audio or not. Oh, I don't think I have the audio.
It's good. He just said it's good, and he walked off the set.
His first 3 of the game, he says, wow. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That's a good idea, by the way. And maybe that's something that we need to pass on to the Mountain West in terms of being able to plug into your own local broadcast. That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking a lot. I spent way too much time last night thinking about the broadcast, thinking about the crew, thinking about how they pulled that off. It's good to have that option. It's too bad that game wasn't on TV. I know the schedule's a mess right now, but that's a good way to improve that. Good suggestion.
Jen Walters chiming in. I believe Bronco Nation. I think that's coming in on the Facebook page. We are live, by the way, on the Facebook pages of Bronco Nation News and 95.3 The Ticket. We're on the Twitter, the YouTube, Facebook. These shows with Prater and Johnny will be streamed on both platforms moving forward. So hello to those of you watching on the 95.3 KTIK The Ticket pages as well as Bronco Nation News. And Mike, unfortunately, it's going to be the story, I guess, until we get to March. I mean, they could win 20 in a row right now and finish the regular season, and going into the Mountain West tournament, that's going to be the story. Can they do it? I mean, is there anything that could happen if they win the rest of it? I mean, what can we do other than wait till March, or is there anything we can do for some of the diehard Leon haters, the detractors, to buy in? I mean, does the win tomorrow night, does getting in the top 25 in 2 weeks, I mean, is there anything that can be done where even someone like yourself finally says, all right, this team is good?
Well, this team is good, and I don't want my past skepticism to get in the way too much. And your question is absolutely 100% legit, and we're seeing the evidence of that in some of these crowds. Boise State's playing its best basketball game, in a long time, and they might this 11-game winning streak might be the most impressive thing that they've had. I know they had 13 last year, but a lot of that was in front of empty gyms, and there's a lot of circumstances that lead me to believe that this year's winning streak is much better. This team is very, very, very good, and I don't think anybody disputes that. I think what they dispute is what can happen down the road. BJ, I don't want to sound overly hypocritical here because I do that all the time anyway. But somebody the other day said, and it may have even been a player, and maybe you talked about it a little bit, or maybe even been Johnny, who likes to enjoy the journey. And there's something to be said about enjoying the journey. Yes, the end result here is March and getting this basketball team into the NCAA tournament. And I'm seeing signs where I may even elevate my expectations from getting into the tournament to winning a tournament game for the first time in the history of Boise State University athletics. So this team is starting to show me some signs that it's that good, that competitive, that determined at the end, that mentally tough at the end, which has been one of my biggest issues. Inside guys. Now, the inconsistencies in the shooting, the inconsistencies on the free throw line are going to be a big bugaboo. And if they lose one game, one time because of that, that's going to be unfortunate if the timing is bad. But this team is good. We all should enjoy this journey just a little bit. When they come back, I hope they have better home crowds. And the schedule's just not done them any favors. 3 home games in 6 weeks, and all 3 of those home games are on a Tuesday? Are you kidding me? February, I almost called you ball game. Sorry, I'll put a buck in the swear jar. February, BJ, is going to be a fantastic month for basketball around here.
I don't know who that's more offensive to, me or ball game. But you spend more time with him than your family, so it's understandable. But you look at Boise State's schedule. The Wyoming game is next Tuesday. Again, another Tuesday game. But Wyoming is borderline top 25. Wyoming's really good this year with Jeff Linder and what he's doing. That's actually a I think they're 14-2 or 15-2 or something. So that's going to be an interesting game. And then, yeah, the only good thing, I guess, Prater, about all these road games is that it does make up in February. They have some monster home games in February with San Diego State, Nevada, UNLV, Utah State coming back, Colorado State. They're going to have to reschedule that game as well. So, I mean, you're if you, I know Bob's talked about it. You look at it like golf, and they're birdieing some of these road games, and they're getting ahead, and now they're having all these home games coming in. I mean, they're in a we got to start talking about this team maybe winning the league, right? I mean, they're 5-0 in the Mountain West, and I know there's some teams that have one loss or two losses, and obviously San Diego State, Colorado State are both very good, and tomorrow may make go a long way in deciding this, but all these road games they're picking up, they're going to have a lot of home games. They don't lose too often at home. I mean, I think we're at a point now where this is a legit chance, and they should be, thinking about winning the Mountain West here. And if you win the league, you're going to the NCAA tournament.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And Boise State, I mean, these next two games, the only undefeated teams in the Mountain West, as you know, are Boise State, Wyoming, and San Diego State. So on the schedule, if they can get through these next couple of games, I think that's 100%. I'm starting to think that Boise State can win this Mountain West, and we're going to figure it out tomorrow night. You know more about San Diego State basketball than I do, and I know Linder's got it going on in Wyoming, but winning this tournament, now they can't go to the NCAA just by winning the regular season. They have to win the tournament.
No, I'm just saying in a league as talented as the Mountain West, they wouldn't leave the regular season champion out of the tournament. I mean, it's not an official lock, but they got 6 teams in like the top 60 of the net or whatever. I mean, if you're the regular season champion this year, you can pencil yourself in for an at-large bid, in my opinion. So I think that would punch their ticket, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think at Fresno, I mean, the schedule doesn't let up. I mean, you got San Diego State and then Wyoming's at home, and they turn around next Friday back in Fresno a week from today. I mean, it's crazy to think we're sitting here, Mike, and they're going to have 3 games by next Friday. Already going to have 2 more games, and playing in Fresno, who's pretty good. That's going to be a tough game on the road. So I mean, it doesn't let up, but it just has a different feel to it. You had other teams where the pieces just didn't fit, Mike, and you had, nothing against guys like Derek Alston Jr. They were phenomenal players, but it just seems like it doesn't have to be one guy getting his 15 shots tonight. No matter what happens, I'm getting my 15 shots up. They just don't have that guy anymore. And whether it's Acott or whether it's Shaver, whether it's Kejab, whether it's getting it down low to Armouche, I mean, Tyson Degenhard, I mean, you got legitimately 4 or 5 guys that could go for 15 points in a random game or 20 points. And it just could be a different guy every night. And just the balance to me and the unselfishness of just guys saying, hey, it's this guy's night. Let's keep feeding him the ball, or it's not my night. Again, not taking anything away from previous guys or previous teams, but there were times where Derek Alston Jr. was going to get his 20 shots up no matter what. If he was 3 of 19 or if he was 18 of 19, and they don't have a guy like that this year. It just seems way more balanced, and it's a different guy on a different night. And last night's a perfect example. Marcus Shaver's been their best player for most of the season. He's terrible. He's 0 for 10. Other guys pick up the pace, and then he's there to hit the final shot. I mean, it just seems like there's, I don't know, the balance and the camaraderie and the unselfishness and just how it can be a different guy on any different night. It just sparks me as something that I haven't seen in my 9 years here, and it just seems like it's something that really could carry this team moving forward.
BJ did mention the chemistry word, and you're around this team an awful lot, and Leon Rice throws around the chemistry word an awful lot. Do you buy into it?
Well, I mean, it is one of those things where it's like a cliche or a cop-out, It's like, oh, these guys like playing with each other. And I know that's kind of us media guys roll our eyes or whatever. It's one of those things you don't really know what that means. But you can legitimately see being around this team on the road and stuff. You can there's no cliques or just guys doing their own thing. It really does, seem like this is a team that really does enjoy playing with each other. And like I said, there's no guy that has to take his 20 shots. So there's no issues in a game about a guy taking a bad shot, or, you don't see guys rolling their eyes or getting mad. I mean, there were multiple times last year where I saw guys bickering on the court. They'd be, a guy taking a shot, they'd point fingers, or they'd say something to him. I remember in Reno, I know there was a couple guys getting into it in one of the Reno games last year. You don't see any of that. You see all kind, guys are happy for each other. Guys are, and again, I know it's kind of a cliche media thing or coach thing, and how big of a deal is it really? But I think with this team, there is something to that, and it's the off-court chemistry, but it's the on-court chemistry too, where it's just that the ball movement and and the ball doesn't really stick as much, and you don't get a lot of one-on-ones. Key jab sometimes likes to dribble a little too much and post guys up and clear guys out. But for the most part, there's not a lot of the one-on-one type stuff, and it's ball movement, and everybody's happy for each other, and no one's demanding the ball, and it just has a different feel to it. It has. I mean, this looks like a legit. I mean, you said this team is good. I mean, they are. You don't go into the game saying, okay, well, if this guy doesn't score 20 points tonight, they have no chance. I mean, you just don't feel that way. You just wonder which guy tonight's going to be the guy to step up, and it's been a different guy most nights, and it's been pretty impressive. And we talk about the lack of depth. They only have 7 guys or that play or whatever, but so far, that's been enough. I mean, the 7 guys they have are pretty good. And even a Max Rice, who's not hitting from 3, you saw in the highlights he scored on a bucket, and he's a good ball mover, and he's okay on defense, and he does some things even when he's not, making shots. He's kind of a pest out there, and I think is, bugs teams with just kind of the way he moves around. But I mean, Najee Smith has given you minutes. He's had a couple big games where he's scored in double figures, and then any guy in the starting lineup on any given night could put up a lot of points. And so I think that is what is really going to help this team, because you just don't go into the game thinking, okay, if these 2 guys are bad, we don't have a chance. I mean, Marcus Shaver Jr. 0 for 10. I mean, if Derek Olsen was 0 for 10 last year, there was very few games they'd win. I mean, it just didn't happen when Derek Olsen was 0 for 10. This year, your best player goes 0 for 10, and you're still in the game, and it allows him to hit the 3. So I just think the depth and the the fact that you don't rely on one guy, I think, is huge and is really going to carry this team.
I'm glad you mentioned Max Rice, because I've beaten up Max Rice a lot, mostly for his shooting. I mean, the guy, he's a brick house. Let's call it what it is. But I've been really impressed with the intangibles that Max Rice is bringing to the table, especially the last couple of weeks. First of all, you said he's okay on defense. I think he's a little bit better than that, because he does fly around. He is like that fly in the ointment that he's a pest, as you said. He's the guy you don't want on somebody else's team. You want him on your team. Kind of a John Stockton-esque, although, I'm not comparing the skill or the talent level by any means. But Max Rice, I love his energy. I love the way he flies around. I love the way he pokes the bear. I love the way he plays defense. Even when he's shooting just 2 or 3 shots a game and he's not making them, he hasn't been making them all season. If Max Rice played a game without a shot, that'd be a perfect game for Max Rice. Just go off and do what you have to do. Mm-hmm. I know sometimes the game of basketball requires you to throw up a couple of baskets, but Max Rice, stop shooting, keep being you, keep playing defense, keep playing a pest. I think it's an important role on this basketball team, BJ.
And I mean, he's made 1 3-pointer this year. How crazy is that? I mean, you talk about the depth on this team. He's made 1 3, and he's still playing like 30 minutes a game or whatever. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And he does do different things when he's out there. But I say that because it's coming. It's coming, Mike. Some game he's going to hit 2 or 3 3. I mean, he's got to. He's not going to have 1 3 for the whole season. I mean, he is going to hit a couple of shots. And every game I go in thinking, okay, maybe this is the game. And I watch him in warmups, and he makes 10 straight. And you watch him, and you just say, how does he not make every shot he takes? Because in practice he does. And he gets in the game, and he kind of is gun shy, or he looks to pass. He doesn't want to shoot right away, and the shot doesn't look as smooth when he does put it up right now because he's kind of rushing it. But a game is coming where he's going to hit 2 or 3 threes, and he's going to be the post-game interview guest, and he's going to say he's back on track and win. And that's a good sign for Boise State, because they're winning without him right now. And if he can start making a few shots, but you're right, it's hard when you're a shooter. If you're only taking 1 or 2 shots a game, you may go 0 for 2. I was talking to Matt Bauscher about this yesterday. It's just so hard. You may go 0 for 2 and you're 0 for 2, but then you may if you shoot 4 of them, you may make your next 2, and all of a sudden you're 2 for 4. And so it's just that give and take where you're not making them, but you want to shoot it. And so it's just obviously tough for him. But that's why this team is just so good. Guys, you're not getting a whole lot out of him offensively, and yet you're still winning. And Najee Smith has been incredible. His turnaround. I mean, there was so much to be made of the lack of a bench. And like I said, your 2 guys you're getting off the bench are both pretty good. And so I still think Lucas Milner can contribute. I know Pavle's been out for unknown reasons, but I think folks can put 2 and 2 together in this day and age of why he's out. But I think that fatigue tomorrow could be an issue, though, for me, Mike. You talk about they got to San Diego at 1 in the morning or whatever, and they're probably not going to do much of a practice today. I don't know. I wouldn't think they'd be doing too much strenuous stuff. But 5 games in 10 days. It's been a heck of a grind, and you're going to San Diego. Now, the thing that does help them is San Diego State's playing their first game in 2 weeks due to their COVID pause. Now, they have been able to practice. They've practiced all week since Monday, so they're going to be, Nevada only got 2 days of practice in. San Diego State has had like 5 days of practice, so they should be a little more normal. But first game in 2 weeks. You never know. Maybe Boise State catches San Diego State a little rusty, but fatigue tomorrow night could be a little bit of a factor for me. But another hostile crowd, and they just showed they can win in one like they did last night.
BJ, I'm glad you brought that up. And here's a story. I'm going to be your editor for the next 10 seconds. Here's a story that I'd like you to dive into. A couple of years ago, maybe it was even last year, I've lost track of time through all this COVID nonsense, but the last couple of years, Leon Rice has talked extensively about the resources that are giving to this basketball team and contributing to the late season collapse. This basketball team is fatigued. This basketball team is worn down. This basketball team is waking up on Friday morning and driving to Salt Lake and getting on a commercial flight and flying to San Diego and getting there at 3 p.m. to play a game the next day, and then doing the same dog and pony show over and over again. You know as well as I do. They took a luxury bus, a very luxury bus to Logan. They took a commercial flight last night. You talked about them getting into San Diego late. But you know what? That's a hell of a lot better of improvement than what they've done in the past. So and I haven't heard Leon Rice, and maybe this is because he's winning, and maybe because he's focused on something else, or maybe because he's saving it for March for that late season collapse that Prater expects. Are the resources different? As Jeremiah Dickey stepped up with more commercial flights, and I know that they were
charter
more and more every year as they try to build this budget, but have they got to the point where Leon Rice is satisfied with the resources given to this basketball team behind the scenes so they aren't fatigued in San Diego tomorrow night?
Well, I think they're getting more charter flights than usual this year, and I think part of it is due to the cancellations and reschedules. They were able to tap into some reserve funds, I think, for some of this. But they chartered to and back from New Mexico because they had a quick turnaround there. So, and Bob would obviously know this better. But yeah, they chartered, and then they're actually chartering home tomorrow night after the San Diego State game as well. And you're right, it's a huge difference. You know, I mean, the Reno game they did not. I mean, I saw them in the airport at 5 a.m. in Reno. And so you play a late game like that, and then you got to come back on 2 days' notice. That thing's real. I know fans like to use that as an excuse, and all of a sudden in March, that's the reason. But I do think there's something to that. I mean, there's you don't see the Kansases of the world, taking commercial flights. They just don't. They charter everywhere, and I think that does matter. They were in San Diego last night, and yeah, they landed at 1 a.m, but they got to bed. They slept in today. Maybe they're still sleeping. That's a huge difference. And you wake up and you're already in San Diego, and the coaches on the plane could be getting the head start for today on the game planning and the prep and all that. It is a huge difference. And so I am going to look into the exact number, but I know it's been a few more this year. They're still doing some commercial flights, but they have mixed in a few more charters. And I think it has been a huge help. We got to get out of here so I don't get chastised by our buddy JP. But in 30 seconds, Mike, final thing here. Just 11 in a row, big one tomorrow. What's your final take?
I'm for the first time in a long time, I'm going to listen to Leon Rice, and I'm going to enjoy this journey for a little bit. I was smitten with this basketball team and what I saw last night. I'm not going to be a complete reversal. This is not a complete 180. I'm still skeptical about what's going to happen in February and March, and I need to see it. I need it to be proven. But I think right now I'm starting to enjoy this journey, and I think fans are too. It's going to be interesting to see what the home game is and what the crowd is and what the response is. But I'm excited for February, and I'm going to save the last 10 seconds, BJ. Even if JP yells at us for being 10 seconds late, it's time for a moment of silence for the late, great Meatloaf, the great rock and roll artist, bat out of hell, passed away in the middle of the night last night. Meatloaf, you're my kind of guy. Meatloaf, you're Leon Rice's kind of guy. This is a Meatloaf kind of basketball team, BJ. They grind, they get it done. Sometimes they look pretty, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, they always get the pretty girls. So R.I.P. Meatloaf, you're a great ambassador, and we'll miss you very much. And good luck, Boise State.
What a combination of things there on the final take, but that was sad news to hear, and that doesn't surprise me that you were a Meatloaf fan. But 3 to 6, folks can listen 95.3 FM. Is it still 1350 AM on the AM side? It'll be 3 to 6. You can also listen on that KTIK app, or you can go to KTIK.com as well. Prater and Johnny will be on 3 to 6, Idaho Sports Talk. I'll be on there at 4 o'clock. Bob will be on there from San Diego. So a lot of Boise State talk to keep this thing rolling. Appreciate it, Mike. We'll talk to you at 4 o'clock, and we'll be listening 3 to 6, 95.3 The Ticket. Appreciate you guys checking out Bronco Nation News Live. Head to BroncoNationNews.com. Full coverage of last night's game. Take care, folks.